Thank you for your interest in today's broadcast, which is offered to provide you with a few keys to running a smooth webinar. A lot of time and effort goes into hosting a single event, and simple mistakes can keep these high-stake events from delivering the potential value. A proven success is required to minimize the risks that can undermine what is perceived as your commitment to your event. So by leveraging from the experience of hundreds and hundreds of online events, Turnkey Webinars would like to share a few tidbits on how you can ensure your event is a success, and even so, how we would love to work with you to take on that responsibility. A few disclaimers. For the purpose of this presentation, I tend to use the word webinar to also mean online training or any type of online event for that matter. When I use the word audience, I am referring to your members if you are a trade association, your clients or prospects if you are a solutions or services provider. It could also include your colleagues if you're hosting an internal event. So without further delay, let's jump right in. For today's session, I'd like to offer a preview of what we will cover. We'll start off with a review of the different roles of your stakeholders. Then we'll talk about the different components of technology, followed by a review of understanding your audience. Then one of the more critical elements of a successful webinar, which is the content, followed by a review of all of the different assets that can result from a single webinar. The event manager could be someone within your organization or a contractor like Turnkey Webinars, whose sole responsibility is to ensure the speaker and attendees have a great experience. This includes offering guidance on the presentation, anything from font size, length of slides, whether it's too wordy, and ensuring they are comfortable with the technology. It is equally important to ensure attendees understand the webinar platform. Do they understand how to submit questions, how to download slides? The event manager will troubleshoot attendee technical challenges if they're not familiar. The speaker should have one and only one role: focus on the presentation. The presenter should not be concerned with questions from the audience until the actual Q&A session. Ensuring the speaker joins the webcast at least 30 minutes prior is critical to allow time for any troubleshooting so your event can start on time. The webinar program coordinator should be or could be someone within your marketing department, or someone who serves as the webinar chairperson for your association, or even a business development rep who is looking to use webinars for lead gen. Depending on their level of understanding of hosting webinars, they too could serve as your event manager. This role is responsible for promoting the event to their target audience using email, social media, and other outlets as relevant. This role also secures the subject matter expert or the presenter. Depending on the size and structure of your organization, these could all be the same people, same person, shall I say. This role should understand the message that is to be delivered and be able to identify the best person to deliver that message. The technology is a critical element. You can have the right message at the right time and the right audience. But if they can't receive the message, then most of your effort is in vain. Notice I said most, and I'll come back to that in later slides. Your event manager or facilitator or moderator, whatever their title, is solely responsible for its technical success. That person should master every aspect of a live webinar, including helping attendees with technical issues, answering questions about gaining access to the slides, facilitating the Q&A, and any audience polls. There are three main components of the technology: the audio, the visuals, and the recording. Audio can be offered via telephone with a dial-in number, or voice over IP, which is essentially listening using your computer speakers. For the audience, the telephone is the more popular option, but must be reviewed carefully to determine if toll versus toll-free or even international dialing will be the option of choice. For the presenter, using a headset is the best practice as it gives the presenter the flexibility to move around during the presentation without distorting the audio quality for the attendees or the recording. And many webinars will offer both a telephone and a voice over IP for attendees. The visuals include everything from the public and private chats, pollings, handout downloads, desktop sharing, use of whiteboards. Depending who is controlling the slides, it could also include the assigning of keyboard and mouse controls. If you're managing your own event, I highly encourage setting a few practice sessions with yourself and perhaps another colleague to get familiar with the various visual components. An event manager will know which of the components to leverage for a particular webinar to ensure the webinar goals are achieved. The recording is very important, and we'll talk more about this in a few more slides when we discuss assets. But having a recording of your replay gives it a greater life shelf and should become a part of other related marketing or outreach programs. Having said that, it is important that your webinar technology will support a high quality audio and video recording. Turnkey will advise speakers to avoid the use of cell phones because it degrades the audio, even if they have a good reception at that time, not to mention the risk of the call dropping. If there are a few hiccups within the presentation or some portion that you would like removed before the replay file is distributed, such as when you administer the audience poll question, you should be sure your webinar platform will provide an editable link like a WMV file as opposed to a proprietary link which is offered by some platforms. The speaker and the event manager many times are in different locations, so it's equally important that both rooms are free from background noise, echo free. If possible, you should put a sign on your door to advise that a live event is in progress to minimize any distractions. Knowing your audience. So let's start with trust. Make sure the topic that was promoted is what will be presented. Attendees secure time on their calendar for a webinar that they felt would benefit them based on the promotion. So be sure the presentation is aligned with that promotion. So much effort goes into producing a single webinar with the hopes of getting folks to show up. So when they do, make sure they have a good experience, beginning with starting the event on time or at least within 2 to 3 minutes after the published start time. I throw that in because sometimes I like to give the audience time for the event to launch on their system and just kind of get settled in. Valuable information is presented via the housekeeping notes, so I like to be sure I can include as many attendees during that beginning portion. When possible, make the slides or handouts available before the start of the webinar. That way the audience isn't distracted trying to get the handouts printed so they can take notes on them, thus missing the first part of the online event. This issue is compounded when there's a group watching the webinar together, which happens in many cases. Offer guidance to ensure they know how to access the replay after the webinar. How do they submit questions? Many of this is covered during the housekeeping notes and perhaps right again before the Q&A session. The event manager should also be attentive and responsive to any chat or questions received from the attendees that indicates they're having problems. The most common problem is webinars. The most common problem attendees tend to experience within webinars has to do with audio. If an attendee is listening using voice over IP, the quality of their audio is dependent on their internet connection. So in those cases, I typically suggest the attendee dial in using the phone option instead. And this should go without saying, but thank them. These days, there are so many webinars being offered. There is a true competition for your audience's time. So thank them for taking time out of their schedule to participate in your webinar. If you're a trade association, this goes without saying, but even if you aren't, you should consider offering your attendees a certificate of attendance, especially if they have certifications to maintain. This makes their submission process much easier, so they're typically very appreciative and will therefore consider attending one of your future events. The content or presentation is the reason people join your webinar. To see good registration numbers, find a topic that is current and timely. The content or presentation is the reason people join your webinar. To see good registration numbers, you should find a topic that is current and timely. If it's September 2015 and you're in the healthcare coding business, ICD-10 would be considered a timely topic. If BP is in the news claiming the reason for the oil spill is due to a part produced by a third party, perhaps the topic of third-party risk management will be top of mind for your audience. Also, make sure you promote to those who would actually benefit so the topic is applicable to their role. Now, this goes back to the marketing fundamentals of segment or targeted marketing. Your database should be segmented enough so targeted campaigns can be launched. By doing this, you minimize your opt-out rates and preserve the quality of your contacts. While some may enjoy bare-bone facts, many appreciate a presenter's attempt to keep the event compelling. This can be done through the use of graphs instead of traditional bullets from beginning to end. Obviously, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I've been known to be a culprit of this as well, but I always warn against the overuse of graphics and images and emoticons as they can become too distracting. Another tool to keep the audience engaged is real-life case studies. Being able to relate their presentation to something that is recognizable to the attendee helps the message resonate. The event planner can also contribute to this area by strategically administering audience poll questions throughout the presentation. Although not really considered content, the delivery is also important and it's worth mentioning. A skilled event planner will know how to leverage the technology to combat speakers that have a dry or monotone delivery. As many of you listening to this broadcast know, and I've said at least 3 times so far, a lot goes into the production of a single event. So why not milk it for all that it's worth? A webinar presentation can be summed up in a form of an overview that could be used in email campaigns, newsletters, and social media. You can do a LinkedIn post to advise people of an upcoming webinar or share a key talking point after the webinar. The recording file becomes a valuable asset in your on-demand resource center. This is a hub where you can point your prospects or members who didn't attend the event or they just want to be sure to share this with their colleagues. It's a fact that regardless of a person's intentions, things come up. So I never recommend discounting the value of a prospect or member's intentions just because they didn't attend your live event. If they are registered and didn't attend the live event, be sure they are aware of how they can access the replay. Each webinar offers a minimum of 3 expected touch points for your audience. Keyword here is expected, which inherently means your open and click rates will be much better because they're interested in the details that you have to share. Those 3 touch points are a pre-session, which is after they've registered when they receive their registration confirmation email. The second is in session during the live webinar. You have a captivated audience for about 60 minutes. Especially when the webinar is free, the audience is likely to be more responsive to your requests, whether it is requesting their contact information, answering polls, or the like. The third is post-session, when you send them the replay and anything else promised. For technology solution providers especially, this is where your product focus goes. Unless you have promoted your event as a product demo, product focus should stay away from the core presentation unless it is something that can be tastefully woven in and doesn't take up more than 3 to 5 minutes of your presentation, which takes me to our final slide. So just a brief overview of Turnkey Webinars, who would love to work with you to manage your next online event or create a webinar strategy that will offer a consistent professional program to help you achieve your goals. We would essentially serve as your event planner to manage the registration, speaker prep, live event, and post-event reporting. We have our own webinar platform license, so clients do not need to have their own. So that saves you on those monthly subscription costs. 20 plus years of proven marketing experience working with trade associations, government bodies, consultants, and legal experts, as well as technology solution providers, all of whom are ideal to benefit from the use of webinars. Marketing offers a solid foundation upon which an effective webinar program is built. And we will match any competitor's cost. In researching other webinar management companies, we're pretty confident that our prices are among the lowest. One primary reason is because of our minimal overhead. We don't use separate people to manage registrations and another person to prep the speaker, then another to manage the live event. So you get one single contact person who works with you from start to finish. So again, I thank you for your time, and we'd love to hear from you if you'd like to learn more or schedule your next online event. Have a great day.